Hey, welcome to Motorbike Mondays. This is Evan. I'm here with Jared and Brady. This is a new motorcycle podcast we're going to start doing. Tonight, we're just going to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks and months and kind of what our point is with this podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce everybody first, and then we'll kind of talk about what our backgrounds are and why you should possibly listen to what we have to say. So I'll start with Jared. So Jared, tell us about you.
How's it going? I'm Jared, and I've been building vintage motorcycles, cafe racers, and bobbers and stuff for 4 years now, probably. I've built a handful of bikes, and just recently, Brady and I got a shop together, so we're official now.
So what's the shop called?
Well, we build for Seaweed and Gravel. It's a company that works with vintage motorcycles, surf, kind of lifestyle brand, and we head up the custom garage portion of that.
So where's Seaweed and Gravel located? Give us the info on that.
Seaweed and Gravel is located in Southern California, in Leucadia on the coast.
They have a website or something?
Seaweedandgravel.com. You can see a lot of. I'm Brady, by the way. I do a lot of the full builds for Seaweed, and you can see a lot of on the website seaweedandgravel.com. There's a moto section, and a lot of the builds, bikes, kind of have been come and gone through there, posted on there. So if you want to check those out, do so.
So their shop is in San Marcos, Southern California, San Diego, North County, San Diego area. You can definitely go to them for any type of custom bike builds, bobbers, cafe racers, you name it. So they're a good resource if you're local or even out of the area and want to commission a build.
We ship bikes all the time. We have clients all over the United States, and there's a couple outside of the country, right?
Where else have you shipped to?
I haven't built them yet.
But they're on the build list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
They're
where?
on the build queue. I think one in Germany, one in Italy,
nice.
The UK, I think London area.
How did they get in touch with you guys?
That was just through just the past couple. Officially through Seaweed and Gravel, I've released two builds.
Were those for specific customers
those
or just
were
going in the shop?
Yeah. Well, one of them was for a specific customer. It was a black CB550 that was kind of a cafe racer, brat style kind of hybrid. Just something low and clean. And then from that was the first official release. Just kind of through went somewhat
Trying it out, kind of.
well, just after releasing to some blogs and stuff like that, just word kind of spread and started attracting some international and national attention.
So then Brady, what's your background? How did you get into doing this?
For me, I primarily it started as a young kid, which I think most people who like working or wrenching on stuff, it comes from just that interest that turned into their dad showing them some stuff as a kid, and then I started building old VW bugs from an early age. Did that for many years and kind of messed around the off-road world, and then about 7 years ago I got my first motorcycle, and it kind of
All went downhill.
It pretty much did. It kind of is where I feel my passion for figuring out how things work and working on stuff kind of all combined and soloed on these motorcycles, and started my shop. I shop ugly motorbikes about 3 years ago, and less than a year ago merged with I myself, Brady, merged with Seaweed and Gravel, and now is a part of that team, and we're just a bunch of weirdos just having fun.
So what do you prefer to work on? What's your if you have a choice for a build, what do you like to do?
I tend to work with a lot of Hondas, like most people building, say, cafes or whatever, just because there are just tons of them out there, and they're solid bikes. As they're just bulletproof bikes. But
what's your choice of style though? Like
choice of
a
style?
cafe bike? I mean, what?
I think that's, well, for me it's kind of hard just because I'm somewhat known for building cafe racers.
Although there's a lot of interpretation for
yeah,
those.
yeah, exactly.
Because you see on Craigslist every week with some
my
D-bag
God.
with a
stock bike with
CV,
Clubman's
a
on it,
CV.
cafe racer.
Apparently, a set of Clubman bars and some bar end mirrors is the new standard for cafe
exactly.
racers.
And you take a bike that's worth $500 and you throw $2,000 on top of that because of the Clubmans and
well, dude, it's a
and
cafe
bars.
racer.
It's a cafe
I mean, what-
racer, exactly.
Hey, it's vintage, man.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't run, but it's vintage.
It doesn't
It's
have
worth
to.
$2
It has
grand.
Clubman bars on it.
Firm.
God, that pisses me off.
But yeah, so I guess I don't know. I mean, I love old. I love old style of things and kind of modernizing them a bit. I love very simple and clean things, and that's generally what my bikes that I build resemble. Just something simple and clean, and everything works together. And whether that applies to, say, bobbers, cafe racers, brat style, even trackers, or just something new that I don't even know that's out there or into. But
so, what at your guys' shop? What's the breakdown of work between the two of you? Who does what?
We kind of do. We have our own. We get our own builds. We have our own projects. Occasionally, we'll lend a hand to each other. Help each other out. But for the most part, like Brady will have a customer that he's building a bike for, and I'll have the same for myself.
So, for instance, Jared right now is working on a
TX 500, Yamaha 74 Yamaha TX 500.
which no one probably has even heard
Yeah,
of.
I know.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
like-
know what it was when it came. to
They made them for like 4 years, and it's the predecessor to like the XS 500, basically. The engine is a little bit bulkier, a little bigger, but I guess they were. I mean, they weren't very solid bikes, but this bike looks pretty cool. We bought it.
They're cool when you take everything off of them.
Yeah, when everything's on the floor, it's cooler. No, just kidding.
Well, so how did this job come to you specifically?
This build is a build for seaweed and gravel to sell in the shop.
So they commissioned it for their shop.
Right.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of what I do more for seaweed is we call them Shopify.
Right.
Like if we buy, we'll get a bike, usually on Craigslist or something, and then I will kind of I'll do the fab work and I'll turn it into whatever we want the build to be.
Did they give you guidelines for it, or did they pretty much?
Yeah, we kind of all
Hand
have
you a
like
bike.
similar visions and say, yeah, we should do this or this. Dave is basically, he's the owner of Seaweed and Gravel, and at that point he is the customer, I guess.
Co-owner.
Yeah, co-owner of Seaweed and Gravel.
Does he buy the bike and hand you the bike ready to go?
Yeah. So Brady and I usually end up going and picking up the bikes, but Dave pays for them.
Got it.
And so he'll kind of tell me what he wants, but I have my own creative, I guess,
Freedom.
to- and so this bike, I was looking on Craigslist one morning. I found it. Looked like a pretty good deal. It looked a lot cleaner in pictures than it really was. And
As often happens
yeah,
on
yeah.
Craigslist.
Craigslist trickery #1. Pictures lie. But so I went down,
and it didn't just run last week.
yeah. I went down, picked it up, and brought it back. And at that point, I didn't really have any intentions of building it. I don't even really know why I bought it for Dave, because it just kind of sat there. In my head, it was kind of just like, keep it in the shop and somebody will buy it to do their own project. And then it sat there for a little bit, and Dave asked me if I wanted to build it, so I was like, sure. And took it home, or took it to the shop, and started tearing it apart, kind of got it running actually first, and just because that's always a good thing to do if you don't know if the motor's solid or anything.
It's always a good
If you
start.
can get it to run, it's better than building a bike that you don't know if it runs or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So we did that. I took it home, got it to run. Then we kind of talked about what we wanted it to be, and we decided upon a rough tracker build, but still kind of low and flat, with some pretty aggressive tires, and just rough, kick only, no key kind of
Very
thing.
cool original paint.
Yeah,
on the
original like patina is kept and everything, and so that's kind of what it happened to be, and it kind of evolved into just more potential. Just kept coming out of what was happening, and kind of took it beyond that just simple and rough. And it's still simple and rough, but it's a very clean rough.
Yeah. Well, especially once you start ditching stock pipes and start fabricating custom pipes, then
That really opens up
escalates.
a whole new level.
Yeah.
Of what
Then you
can
can't
do
just
with
have
something.
like these sweet pipes that you just custom built on it and then not do too
Right.
much to the rest. So
Yeah.
that
And
it kind
then-
of just took a mind of its own on that one.
Yeah, so the bike kind of just went with it, and Dave was more than happy to just say, yeah, dude, looks great, keep doing it, whatever you want to do. And
Yeah, I can see something like that selling out of the shop fairly easily.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
that's what it's for.
Right.
But yeah, so it's almost done.
They're pretty much like the bread and butters, I'd say.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and so I've done a couple of those. It's weird, like you asked Brady what he prefers working on, and he said Hondas because, I prefer working on Hondas more as well, but I've only done Yamaha builds for
Right.
Seaweed so
Yeah.
far.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how that bike kind of took place, and Evan just helped with the regulator rectifier combo because nobody had ever seen anything for this bike before. They stopped making parts for it 2 years after they
Try doing a
manufactured it
little
originally.
research for a TX
Yeah.
500. You're not going to find much.
So Evan came over and we wired it up, and starts first kick, and it'll be available for sale probably
By
first
the
week in
time
November.
Yeah,
this comes out,
we'll
for
get some
sure.
pictures up of it.
Yeah.
Well, so that's kind of an overview of what these guys do. They're a solid custom shop for just about any style or type of bike you want to build. You can get in touch with them through Seaweed and Gravel, or we'll post contact information as well. We've got to figure out how we're going to do that, but we'll get that up soon so you can get in touch with any of us. These guys are always available to commission builds. We'll be talking a lot about what we all know well and what we can offer if there is anybody interested. But the point of this is not really to sell you guys bikes.
Yeah,
although
no, it's-
that's an upside. But
Well, I'm about a year booked in, so don't.
but we're more going to try and we all have some good knowledge in various areas, and we're going to try and get some of that across so we can be a decent reference for the guy trying to do this out of his garage. So I'll tell you what I do. I'm Evan Grist. I run a business called Race Tech Electric. So we're located in Carlsbad, California, northern San Diego County. And we specifically do design and build new production stators, regulators, charging rotors, all sorts of mainly charging system electrical components for motorcycles, from everything from early 70s on up to current.
Pretty much the weakest point of an old motorcycle.
Yeah, which is how I got in touch with these guys. They were looking for parts for a dual overhead cam Honda CB, and I have a charging system kit available for those. So we kind of met up through that and have a lot of knowledge that kind of complements what we're all doing. So, kind of figured we'd figure out a way to get some of this across, maybe help some people, and it's always fun to do a podcast. So mainly most of my business is new production electrical parts. I'm an electrical engineer and design and develop the parts and prototype them here at my shop. And then we retail direct to customer and through a dealer network. Then more recently, I've gotten into doing a lot of contract electrical work for local shops and just local customers. Everything from lighting and dual sport kits on dirt bikes to electrical prep for race bikes. There's a lot of local desert racing, plus the Baja 500, 1000. So there's a pretty big market for doing that kind of electrical prep work, which gets overlooked at shops prepping a bike for racing pretty often. And then I do all sorts of other work. I prefer to work on 70s and 80s bikes, mainly Japanese. I've got a lot of knowledge of BMW airheads in particular, just because they've been a passion for a while. But I've been riding for probably 12 years now. Probably owned 50 motorcycles plus in that time frame.
That's chill.
Everything from like shitbox dual sports from the early 70s to brand new BMWs, and been through my sport bike phase a couple years ago.
Yeah, I had one, and I rode it for a week. And
got myself out of that. I realized pretty quickly I was probably going to kill myself if I kept up on the GSXR kick. So I've moved on to other stuff. Currently, I've got a KLR 650 that I'm building up to be a good adventure bike, and have gotten into like longer distance rides and camping, and a lot of like off-road touring, I guess, has been a lot of fun. But anyway, so then what I'm going to bring to the table mainly is electrical knowledge. I'm an electrical engineer from San Diego State. I've worked in for defense contractors, everything from circuit design and circuit board layout to specialized in wiring harness design, and charging system component design. And I've got a lot of knowledge from troubleshooting simple to complex electrical systems, from ignition, charging system, to figuring out why the hell your headlight doesn't work. And then I've got a lot of other just kind of random knowledge. I'm certainly not the most knowledgeable mechanic in the world, but I've got plenty of hands-on experience, so I can probably bring something to the table there. And what about you guys?
You can turn a wrench.
Yeah.
We can all turn a wrench.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
can turn a wrench pretty well.
You want to go for it, or?
What about
What do you guys, each of you, bring to the table specifically?
I guess what I can bring to a certain extent is I have no formal training when it comes to mechanics or fabrication. I'm pretty much all self-taught, and a lot of my styles or techniques are based off old hot rodders, because that's pretty much who taught me. Hanging around my dad and some of his buddies give me the little hot rod tips, and so pretty much everything that I've learned is through failure and just the interest of pulling things apart and figuring out how they work, and just kind of. So I guess pretty much I have experience I can bring to the table, and I've been fortunate enough to have my hands and work on a lot of bikes through the years, and have gone through absolutely every single system on a bike, and now I'm in a position where, fortunately enough, I am able to do what I love full time, which is build bikes. And I have a lot of motor work experience. That is one of the things I absolutely enjoy doing on bikes, is going through the motors and doing performance modifications and
Restoration.
Restoration. I mean,
an
I
old
think,
engine back to life.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm essentially a designer and a builder, mechanic, and
You bring a lot of fabrication experience
the fab
to it, too.
and design. I was a graphic designer for 7 years, and so that's where I've been able to, I think, focus it all on custom bikes and kind of bring everything full circle. So I say primarily experience and and I've done all the things wrong possible that I can let you know so you can avoid it. But if you're one of those people who, like I am,
It's the best way to learn,
Yeah.
to do it
Well,
wrong.
exactly. I've always said if you're not frustrated, you're not learning.
That's
And,
pretty accurate.
um,
Well, one of the best things you can do, I talk to a lot of people and I work on a lot of bikes with, people who are scared to work on their bike because it's just like this black box and they don't understand how
Yeah.
it works. And I'm
It's the fear of unknown.
Yeah, and I'm always happy to sit down and show somebody, my shop's always open, welcome to people to hang out and see what's going on with their bike. And I feel like the more you can sit down and get your hands dirty and see how something works, the quicker you're going to learn it. And a lot of people can come away with realizing that, oh, shit, I can do this on my own. It's really
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. You just got to get over
You just
know,
got to
being
get
scared
into
of it.
Yeah.
Quicker you get your hands dirty, the quicker
Exactly.
you're going to start doing this stuff on your own. And it'd be really cool if we can turn some people on to, the
Yeah,
guy
wrenching
who
and-
is really into bikes and loves riding them, but hasn't spent a lot of time,
Mhm.
working on them. If we can save you some money taking it into a shop, or you're welcome to pay me to do
Yeah.
it. But,
And also, there's a sense of pride and more enjoyment you get out of your
Oh, for
bike
sure.
because you
made
now
it. You built
Yeah,
it. It's
exactly.
yours.
Not even
versus-
just built it. Like, say, there's dudes and gals that don't know how to change their oil on it,
Yeah.
and even just that little bit. I mean, when you're riding, it's like this thing's running because I
Did
fucking
something
did
to it.
that.
yeah,
Um,
it's a good feeling, and it's one of the things that you can lose yourself 8 hours later realizing you've just been wrenching on a bike for the entire day, and it's a pretty good feeling by the end of it.
Yeah.
Especially take something that's rough or not running and getting it back on the road. I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Bring
it's
something back to life, kind
Yeah,
of.
it's a hell of a hobby, and it doesn't need to be super expensive.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's one of the upsides.
Well,
You-
unless you're working on a bike that you can't find parts for, then,
that can.
then
be.
it can be expensive.
But we'll definitely talk, in the next couple episodes about, what to look for, what's a good base bike to start with, what kind of stuff, what kind of condition it should be in, red flags, stuff to avoid.
Yeah.
But
and kind of narrowing in what your planned purpose is for the
right.
bike. It should kind of give you
because you don't want to
some-
jump into something
yeah.
too over your head.
Exactly.
But if you have some advice on what the right starting point is and how to, figure out what your starting point is, then it's totally doable for you to do this in your garage.
Yeah. I mean, I had my shop for the first year in my garage, and I felt actually. Oh no, I love my shop now. But
When I first started building bikes, I was building them in my front yard. I had a shed.
yeah, I'm a
and
shed guy.
Yeah, I'm a shed guy.
That's his. For people who don't know, that's his or
That
was his
my
Instagram
name.
And
But I
it-
got made fun of too much.
It looks like I mash guys.
Yeah, so I mash guys over here.
I mash guys.
But I mean, I just one day I decided. Well, I mean,
No, your girlfriend got pissed off, and your neighbors.
my
because
neighbors,
you're-
my landlord basically told me I could not have a chop shop in the driveway.
Yeah.
Been
And
told that before.
yeah, so we got a shop together. But for me, like my experience, like growing up as a kid, my dad, he didn't ever, work on cars or anything like that. He could show me how to do anything around the house. Like I could put your whole sprinkler system in if you needed me to, but anything mechanical, I didn't really get any experience from him. And so for me, it's just kind of hands-on, like self-taught, jumping into something. I bought a golf cart that ran for like an hour and then it stopped running and it sat for a couple months, and I decided, screw it. I'm going to make this thing work because I've got nothing better to do and there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to make this work.
Yeah, right.
And so I just kind of jumped into it, like did some research, and I got it to run. And then ever since then, I was just kind of hooked, like pulling apart lawnmowers, pulling apart the golf cart. And then one day I just was like, you know what? I want an old CB 550. And I looked and I searched and I was on tour with a band that I was in, and I found this bike in Sacramento. I bought it for $300. It had an engine. It was a roller basically. Engine, frame, wheels, and a tank and a headlight. And I brought it home and I just tore into it, tore apart the wiring harness, cleaned the carbs, just went for it, and got it to run, and it turned out to be an awesome bike. And so that's kind of my experience, is all hands-on, self-taught, and I've done it on a handful of bikes and researched and read and learned a lot about the systems on these old bikes and stuff. And working with Brady, that helps too, because he knows a considerable amount more than I do, and so that helps out.
I've just made more mistakes than you.
Yeah, he's made more mistakes, but I mean, you don't learn unless you do something right the first time. Which, how many times do you do something right the first time?
Yeah, not very often.
And it's unfortunate too.
Yeah, but yeah. So, and then also, I was a welder, fabricator for a while, and so that's kind of how I started with Seaweed. Is Dave brought me the first bike and wanted some welding stuff done, and just started fabbing it. And he had seen the bike that I built, or a couple of them, and just started doing custom builds like that. And so yeah, that's kind of what I have. And then, I mean, it's just fun. I just enjoy it. I have a passion for it, and it's something that, like Evan said, I can sit there and I'll open a beer and I'll take a sip of it and start working, and then 4 hours later I'll be like, oh yeah, didn't I have a beer? And it still has the same one sip out of it. It's like time just flies, and it's just something that I love doing, and it's awesome. So
I think that gives you a pretty good overview of who we are, what we're trying to do, and where we'll go with this. Like, we'll see what happens and how it evolves, and kind of figure out what to talk about. We'll get some contact information figured out, so anybody listening can get in touch with us. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, we're more than happy to do
questions
that.
And stuff
questions,
we can do.
yeah.
We can answer that.
And so yeah, we'll get that figured out. We'll get this posted up, and then we'll get figure out how we're going to distribute this and contact info and get that out to you. But I think that gives you a pretty good overview. We're going to try and keep these to about 30 minutes a piece, so it's not too much to listen to. And we'll probably be talking next week about what to look for buying your first bike to get started.
Yeah, just kind of taking the first move from interest to let's get dirty.
Yeah.
What to look for,
Yeah.
How to find it. Maybe touch on like base price ranges that you should be looking for, kind of thing.
Specific models and year ranges to look at, and what specific things to look for, or to make sure is not wrong. It doesn't make sense. What's not wrong?
Yeah.
Red flags. Red flags to look for.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, so I think that'll do it. Thanks for listening to Motorbike Mondays, and we will talk to you soon.
See you later.